We're going to discuss, I'll find out, hopefully, what makes cancer sufferers shun conventional treatments like chemotherapy and radiotherapy in favour of alternative treatments. It's thought something like 60% of sufferers will try alternative therapies, such as diet changes, coffee enemas, meditation, either alongside or instead of conventional treatments. Alternative therapies are seen as a way of avoiding painful procedures and nasty side effects, hair loss, nausea and so on. Doctors and surgeons, though many with years and years of experience derived from millions and millions of pounds worth of scientific research, reckon that such therapies offer little or no effect in curing cancer. And yet many patients believe they can be as effective as conventional medicine. There are other reasons why people refuse medical intervention. Tuesday's EastEnders saw Tanya Branning, who has cervical cancer, put her foot down.
In stopping your treatment, Mrs. Jessup, there is a strong chance that you have made your prognosis worse. There is even a possibility that the cancer could have already progressed. Are you sure this is what you want?
Of course it isn't what I want. None of this is what I want.
Without treatment, you're highly likely to get worse. And in my experience, there is a strong probability you may die. It could be a year. It could even be less.
You think I don't know that?
So there you have Tanya rejecting medical advice, which seems to fly in the face of our basic instinct to cling on to life at all costs. Some of us may fear surgery or chemotherapy will only perhaps prolong an existence that's pain-ridden, uncomfortable and undignified. Men, for example, we heard the other day, often refuse treatments that will affect their virility or make them incontinent. And yet advances in treatment mean that cancer sufferers now live 6 times longer than they did 40 years ago. I want to meet a woman in the audience we have today, a young woman who knows more than most about this subject. Her name is Polly Noble, and she's written a very good book, actually, on this subject. We'll hear more about her in a moment. We never have enough time, but if you could tell us a little bit, Polly, about your story, how you've ended up where you are today.
Well, in 2005, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer, and at that time of diagnosis, the cancer had actually spread up into my lymph nodes.
Right.
And I was treated with...
Very serious.
Very serious,
and
yeah.
How old were you then?
I was 24. Oh. Which was pretty... I think I was the youngest youngest patient that my doctor had ever seen with cervical cancer, so advanced. And so I was rushed in for keyhole surgery, I had chemotherapy, and I had radiotherapy, and I also had a form of internal radiotherapy called brachytherapy.
OK, and how were these different therapies for you?
Horrendous. I mean, if anyone's ever been through chemotherapy, they know that it's a very, very radical treatment, and throughout that whole period, I was very, very ill. I lost a lot of weight, I was very fragile, and you know, I really was just a former shadow of myself, and it was a very disempowering place for me to be.
Did the treatments work?
Well, considering I had a recurrence of cancer last year, it's fair to say that probably not. It may have lessened the tumour so much that, yes, I went into remission for a few years, but when the cancer came back in my lymph nodes last year, I was told that it was now incurable. So I'm now living with cancer. So
when did you decide... I mean, have you decided to no more conventional treatments? That's a decision you've made?
I have, yeah, because it was such a disempowering place for me to be. You know, I literally spent the whole year pretty much either I'd sleep on the sofa with my head down the toilet. I suffered very, very badly with severe side effects, which I'm still suffering with today, actually.
Right.
So.
And then where do we make the step, whether it's a quantum step or a giant leap, to alternative therapies? Where did they come into your consciousness? When did they come into your treatment?
Well, I think when during one of the side effects I had was lymphedema in my right leg, which my leg swelled to twice the size, and I was told that it was incurable. I actually managed to heal that myself just by changing my diet, adopting meditation and visualization techniques. So it kind of occurred...
How do you know, because this is the cynic in me, you see, how do you know those things did it and that it just didn't go down on its own? The body is an incredibly complicated organ. It does all kinds of strange things. How do you know it was the diet changes and not something else?
Because for me, I was told explicitly by the doctors that lymphedema is incurable and I had to live with it for the rest of my life, and that most of their patients do actually live with it because all they're given is some lymphedema stockings and told to go home and accept that. I refused to, and I said, I'm going to find out what I can do to help myself. So I adopted an anti-inflammatory diet. I did a lot of visualization techniques. And Dr. David Hamilton has done a lot of research to show that actually the mind and the body are connected, and that the body doesn't know the difference between real and imaginary. And so if you can see yourself healing, then your body naturally takes that on. OK. Now,
Sin, unfortunately, too many people too close to me have gone through cancer. Some of them are surviving. I hope my friend Jo is watching today. She normally is. For me, my understanding, it depends on the framework the framing of the disease. If you were to be told you have incurable cancer and you have a few years to live, I can fully understand why you don't want to spend it lying on a sofa with your head down a toilet, and why one might seek solace in unproven treatments. But if I was told that the treatments, conventional treatments, however hideous they may be, might save my life, I would cling on to those. And I just wondered how that fits in, because you're told something, you've got incurable cancer, and yet you're making things disappear. Did you not think, even when they said it's incurable, there might still be a chance that with more chemo, more radio, I might get through this?
No, because for me, you know, the fact that I'm still living with cancer, you know, 5 years on, having to deal with this again, I don't feel that chemotherapy, radiotherapy actually get to the root cause of the problem. They deal with the symptom. And I think, you know, for medicine going forward, we have to actually look at the person rather than the illness and treat the person from a very holistic perspective and look at all the elements that actually contribute to an illness, as opposed to just giving a pill for every ill, which is what we do too much. And so for me, personally, I want better quality of life, and I know and I fully believe that actually the body wants to heal if you give it the right environment. So given the prognosis of actually you having curable cancer and you can have radiotherapy, yet we don't think it'll make much difference, I said, OK, well, I'm going to go away and look at what I can do to help my body heal and look at alternative therapies that are out there, but yes, are unproven because not enough money has been put into the research to prove that they are effective.
I have to say, you look bloody good on it. You really do. Do any of you guys want to... any questions for Polly?
I mean, you know, I will say I'm fortunate enough not to have had to go through any of this, but I just have to say I think you're incredibly brave. I mean, I don't think that I could have that kind of bravery to shun medicine that, I mean, I say I know works, but we don't...
Tested,
but, you know,
clinically tested.
Yeah, it's clinically tested, and, you know, it's just something that is used, but I just think it's so brave, and, you know, I really do hope it works out for you. Even the fact that you're... I mean, the things that you're saying, you know, positive thinking and holistic therapies, it sounds kind of airy-fairy, but if it's worked... You know, who's to argue with you? Yeah, I just think it's incredibly brave, and I don't know if I could be as brave as you, but take my hat off to you completely.
Thank you. But, you know, it is more than positive thinking. It's, you know, I am, every single day, I'm making my healing my priority. You know, I meditate daily, you know, for at least an hour, and I, you know, do visualization. I've adopted a very anti-inflammatory diet because inflammation is linked to pretty much every single chronic disease there is. And so when we have inflammation on a cellular level, our body can't actually heal if the body's too acidic. So an anti-inflammatory alkaline diet definitely gives the body the environment in which to thrive.
Have you outlined all of this in your book?
Yeah, the book is really it's written by myself, Dr. Pam Evans and Nicholas Holm-Mallam, because it's a book that we felt that we would have liked to have had when we had cancer. And between us, we've had cancer 6 times. And it isn't about healing naturally whatsoever. It's about all the things that you can do when you leave your doctor's surgery. You know, so it's a very empowering, practical guide as to all the things that you can adopt once you get home. And it's, you know, it's really just gives people that you know, that just a bit of control and take back the reins from, you know, in terms of their health, because it's very easy to give your power away to your doctor.
It's worth saying, isn't it? I mean, I was quite surprised the last time a good friend of mine went through cancer, going down to hospital, at how many alternative treatments are actually provided by the NHS. Reflexology, which is foot tickling to the uninitiated. You know, I mean, I'm quite dismissive about it, although what a lovely way to spend, you know, if you're feeling miserable, to have your feet tickled is a lovely thing. I want to throw it open to you guys at home. The phone lines are jammed. I'd really, in particular, like to say, if there's any hard-working doctors out there, what is your take on someone who is in Polly's position? Can you understand why she's made the choices she has? Because I started off not understanding, and I'm coming around to Polly's way of thinking. But who's on the line first, please?
OK, we have Jackie first on line 3.
Good morning, Jackie.
Morning, Matthew.
Morning. What's your story then, Jackie, my dear?
Well, I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 39, which was a bit of a surprise.
I bet.
Didn't know what to do about it, so I just followed the normal route of surgery, which was horrendous. And I was actually told I'd be given a couple of weeks to get over the surgery, and then we'll get you started on chemo. Yep. But that's not informed consent. The chemo was horrendous, and I was working as a clinical hypnotherapist at the time, and I came to realise that if I believed that chemo was bad for me, then it would be, because the power of the mind is actually strong enough to overcome the placebo effect.
Right.
So you can have the placebo effect happen twice. So for me, it just didn't make sense for me to continue with treatment that was so toxic when we were all hoping that the cancer had been removed by surgery.
Right.
What I find really worrying is that I'm quite a strong character, but when I made the phone call to say that I wasn't coming in for any more chemo and I wasn't going to have radiation, I felt like a 7-year-old phoning the headmaster to say I wasn't coming back into school, because we are so, not programmed, because that makes it sound deliberate, but we take it for granted that you've got to follow the conventional medical route.
Well, but if you think about the logic there, Jackie, you have a route which, albeit the origins of medicine and surgery really comes from the Dark Ages, but certainly in the last 50 years, in the last 20 years in particular, enormous strides, millions and millions of pounds of research, endless clinical testing and trials, as opposed to randomness, really.
Random, because what we're not researching is all the people that do really, really well with nutrition and mind regimes such as hypnotherapy and such as what Polly's been doing.
Although you'd accept,
but
Jackie...
we don't research those because they don't fit into the drug paradigm.
Well, yes, that is also the truth, but then we don't research those cases of the people who it doesn't work out for, of course, because they can't tell us their stories.
But Matthew, chemo and radiation doesn't work for everybody.
No, I know. I do know. How old are you now, Jackie? This all started when you were 39.
Yes, I'm now 49.
And how are you feeling?
Fantastic.
I mean, it's impressive, I have to say, Jackie. Do you have any checks or tests?
I stopped. I did do. I got called in by the oncologist when I refused to have more treatment because he wanted to make sure I understood the risks that I was taking. But he couldn't give me any guarantees anyway.
No.
It was in one of my lymph nodes. But I didn't want to live another 5 years. I wanted to live another 45. And, you know, all the research and so on isn't really into the very, very long-term survival. And I don't think living is good enough. I wanted to live well, and I live without fear. I mean, I've recently had a bone scan because I had kidney stone, what we thought was kidney stone pain.
Right.
Somebody saw something on an X-ray, so that took me down the route of having bone scans and so on. And I can honestly say I was not ever going to have more chemo, even if they found something, because I know that my body can get rid of it.
OK, Jackie, amazing story. They're always amazing stories. We've got loads more here. Forgive me, because I want to get somebody else on air as well. Bless you. I hope your life isn't just great, it's fantastic and goes on for a long time, Jackie. Let's have another.
OK, we have Angela on line 5.
Good morning, Angela.
Good morning, Matthew.
Do you think, or have you done something similar here, turned your back on conventional medicine?
Not personally. Basically, I'm from a family that's got the hereditary cancer gene for breast and ovarian. And I watched my mother survive breast cancer but die very painfully from ovarian cancer.
Right.
Just because it went undetected for so long that they couldn't actually save her. And then my sister was diagnosed with breast cancer at 27. She took all the conventional medicine route. At the time, I was 23. I went down the route of being genetic tested. It turned out it was positive, and I also had the mutant gene. So I went through the radical surgery route and had bilateral mastectomy and my ovaries removed in order to quickly stay alive.
Funny enough, Angela,
I took my time in doing that. I've had children, so I was ready to have my ovaries removed. But my point is, I want to be alive for my kids. I want to live to see them grow up. And unfortunately, my mother didn't have the option to do that. And in terms of, so all my family have gone through the conventional medicine route, and as I said, my sister, 14 years later, is still here and healthy, and it's wonderful. But I did read Gloria Honeyford's book about Karen Keating, and it was a very emotional book. But it made me so angry because Karen did seem to turn her back at one point on conventional medicine and went down the route of alternative medicines in Australia. And her sons watched her die, and I just think she should have done everything she possibly could have done to watch her children grow up and let them grow up with a mother. And I just think, I do agree with alternative medicine, but I think it should be used in conjunction with conventional medicine.
OK, what about Angela, I'm very grateful for the call. I absolutely share your sentiments about Gloria's book, 101%. Would you just as we wrap this up, would you accept, though, that if you were told, as Polly was, that you have incurable cancer, if you've had a lousy experience with the conventional treatments, that you can reach a point and say, well, I don't want to continue down this route that makes what time I have left rotten.
No, I do accept that, absolutely. I think if conventional medicine can save your life still, then you should go for it. But if it's not going to save your life, then you should make yourself comfortable. OK,
that's a good note to end on. Thank you, Angela. Thank you for... Tell me about the book, Polly.
The book is for anybody who has cancer. It's a practical guide. It's not about whether you go down the conventional route or the alternative route, whatever route you are going down. It's just the things that you can do to empower yourself and take back the reins on your health. The Cancer Journey, Positive Steps to Heal Yourself. $11.99, I think that's my contact lens this evening. It is, and you can buy it from pollynoble.com or thecancerjourneybook.com. And I'll say, check it out. And thank you very much for giving us time. Brilliant.